Welcome to the CAPB Podcast. This is like a special episode. It's going to be like the King's Speech, but just a little, just a bit shitter. So welcome Paul, welcome Wayne. Nice to see you both.
Hello.
Paul, are you not going to wear one of your Chris?
I just want to appreciate the level of Christmas jumpering we've got going on at the moment.
It's pretty epic.
Thank you.
I'm rocking 80s vibe. Gremlins, I reckon, were 80s. Were they late 80s, early 90s?
100%.
You got a glorious Welsh flag Christmas-inspired jumper. And Wayne, you are rocking it with a supermarket brand. Fuck it, a little jumper, all right, which is awesome.
Other average supermarket.
I'm all up for little brand wear, right? I've got
Best pastries in the world.
Other average supermarket branding is also available. Hey man, coming up to Christmas. The podcast is around 6 months old.
Yep.
Mental.
Really strong.
It's who'd have thought, man? We've done like nearly 20 episodes.
Ridiculous.
But I'm loving it. I'm loving it now. And I think like the lessons, like the patterns from the veterans who are doing so well in business, and the lessons are like, it's so inspiring, man. Do you know what I mean? It still begs, like, it blows my mind how all these people leaving the military and going into business and taking that risk. I don't think that'll ever not be incredible. Like, you're risking it, not for a job.
I think you're right, mate. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've really enjoyed the last couple of episodes, because obviously I've not been able to attend in the day to record them, and then to get them back to watch them in slow time. It's been really nice. Some of them have been like quite choky up moments, and some of them just like been really inspiring. Like Mark Ormrod's one was epic, and just the Sally Orange one was really good as well, I thought.
But you're the OG, mate. You're the original. You're the original guy that got out and started his business. All started with you, buddy.
Thank you very much.
And it's gone downhill. It's amazing.
It's only gone up, hasn't it? To be fair, it's only gone up, hasn't it? The quality of guests we've had have been amazing. Especially the last few.
I think one of the things that for us was that, you know, it is about businesses, but then, as I say, having that pivot and having a conversation with Sally Orange, who's totally inspirational, done loads of great stuff for mental health charities, and having Mark on, you know what I mean, the first UK triple amputee, and having a conversation not about his injuries, but having a conversation about life, having a conversation about like jiu-jitsu and stuff like that. It's just, honestly, what people do and what people go on to achieve after the military blows my mind, mate. And the veteran community is strong. It's such a strong community of people. And I think we've spoke about it a lot where, I know you voice it a lot, Paul, we just don't back ourselves enough, I think, at times. And one of the things a podcast has really done for me is like, you know, it's really made me think we can't just do it. What's the worst that can happen? And people are doing it, mate, and doing incredible things, you know, from starting their own brand to, you know, supporting other businesses to working in television. Do you know what I mean? And everything in between. It's, you know, it's fascinating, mate.
Applying for conferences and everything. People are applying for conferences, and
who would do that? I mean, who would do that? I
think that's a big bit of news you need to share with our audience of two.
I do. I do also think so.
I think that's amazing. I'm like super proud of you. It's an amazing achievement.
No, I appreciate that. I think, so basically I submitted papers or call for papers to speak at quite a big conference. And it's
the biggest in the UK.
It's the biggest agile conference in the UK. But I think one of the things I'm really proud of is the fact that it's kind of a blend, because the story and the thing I talk about, it links like my previous career and this career, and it'll be a nice thing to be able to present that, you know, on stage, you know, and who doesn't like talking about himself? I mean, I certainly.
You hate it. You hate talking about yourself.
It's
But
something we really.
but joking aside, right? Let's cut the comedy a little bit. I don't think I would have submitted papers to do that kind of thing without listening to what people have done on the podcast. And it's just one of those things where you just say, nah, other people can do that. But listening to the podcast and watching people invest their life savings, now they have brands, and invest their life savings, and now they've done all these incredible things, or they've just made it their purpose to raise money, or they've just done these things. And so many people, I think when we spoke to Alex from Combat Fuel, and he was like, he had this idea and he just wasn't going to do it, until someone he was working with, one of his clients, was like, you've just got to do it. And now you fast forward, and Combat Fuel is this incredible brand, and he's doing really well, and he's got these brand ambassadors, and it's like, you just think, well, it's not if he can do it, why can't I? It's like, well, why not? Why not? Do you know what I mean? And I think the more people push themselves out there to do stuff, you're only going to learn from it,
100%.
What I've taken over the last 6 months is the idea aspect of the business, right? Now, the majority of them have not been something that they've always particularly wanted to do. It's something that they've either stumbled across or have been a real lifeline, shining light in the darkest times type of thing that have got them through a lot of stuff. And they've picked it up and gone, they've found their niche, they've found their lane. And it really makes you think that you don't know what's around the corner. You don't know what opportunities are around the corner that you can take and then you can build on. Like, look at Tom from Challenge Coins, right? I imagine that when he joined his story tells it itself. He never set out to make these amazing coins, by the way, right?
Love that.
He set out on a different trajectory, a different path, and he came across this idea and thought, hang about, there's a niche here. And it's the same with Jack, with Rugby Buckets, and it's with everyone. They've not really, they'll always say they've had a passion or they like it. There's been a nuance around it, but I've just found that most of the ideas have come predominantly during military service.
I think you're right. I think you're right. And I think what it shows is their military service has created an opportunity, has put them in a situation where they've had the opportunity and they've exploited that opportunity by saying, I think I can do this. Look at Challenge the Wild. He's AT qualified, does all that kind of stuff. And now he's supporting celebrities achieving huge milestones in these huge events. Tom Newey, you talk about, Tom Newey was presented a coin when he was on exercise in America and thought, I've got nothing to give back. So create a business out of that. I just think that, people, and like you said, it's like, there's no way Tom thought that moment, that pivotal moment in time would have led on to him having this really successful business.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that it is fascinating. And going on to the episode we've just recorded, with Steve Kelly from Southwest Survival, his is the same. And one of the things he talks about is that importance of having a brand. And I think people stepping out of their comfort zone to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to post things on social media, knowing that it might be a bit cringy and knowing that people will give him a bit of flack for it, but doing it anyway. Because if you're building a brand and you're building a business and you're promoting yourself, what's that quote? A wolf doesn't bother himself with the opinion of sheep. It's that kind of thing. It's like, you've got to just do it and have confidence in your own ability. It's just a Jen quote. I didn't make that up.
Only the brightest light shine in the darkest time. Yeah.
Talking about quotes, right? Genuinely, one that really sticks out to me is what Alex said on the Combat Fuel one. He said, you don't need to dim anyone else's light to make yours shine brighter. Yeah. And he created a brand and a business in a field which there is, there's not short of providers for supplements. But he was like, I want to create a brand in supplements. There is space. This market is big. I've done my research. Yeah. And I don't need to...
I think there was space for his brand, though. Like that, there's been the kind of the other veteran brands of kind of supplements and stuff like that. Like you mentioned, like grenade bars and things like that. But there was something that was someone just needed to break into that space of like, I'm making stuff that I like that I think other people will like. That was pretty much his approach, wasn't it? Is like, this is stuff I like, and I think other people will like it, and I'm going to sell it.
And even
Not
even
like
on the
it, don't buy it.
yeah, and even on the podcast, it was like he says on social media, he gets asked, "Are you going to do protein bars?" And he was like, "Grenade do protein bars really well.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to do these other things like protein clusters or protein cups or whatever, but I'm not going to. That's a veteran-owned business. It's doing well. Why would I?" And I love that, mate. And one of the other things I've really taken is like what Mark Ormrod said, and he said that like the brotherhood remains whether you're in or out of the military, or sisterhood. But I think that's been huge for us. And we spoke about this before, where we have a veteran on here who we've never met. We don't know from Adam. We've just seen their story on one of the social medias, on Instagram or LinkedIn. We've heard their story and we think it'd be really great to have them on there. We've messaged them, they've come on, and within 3 or 4 minutes, it's like we've known each other forever. And I think that's like, something really, I'm really proud of from the podcast.
Yeah, I've been out 10 years now. I still find that, like, so I mentioned it before on our kind of midway through milestone podcast, and like with Paul, for example, we've never met face to face, but we still get on quite well and have that kind of military banter. We all give each other grief and stuff on the group quite equally, but it's it's that brotherhood, I think.
Yeah, just when you do,
How we bond.
yeah, just when you do meet Paul face to face, Wayne, he's a lot shorter than he looks on the screen.
I'm actual size that you see me on the screen.
Yeah.
Just don't pat me on the head because I get angry. Yeah.
Just put him there.
No, just put him in there. And with the podcast, I genuinely, right, this has been my highlight of 2024. You know, loads of things have happened in the last 12 months, but doing the podcast, what are you laughing at?
My highlight's getting cancer.
Brilliant.
Brilliant.
We need to keep it in. I've said this before, right? Wayne, I've said this before. He was, I preferred him when he had cancer.
Wow.
Now he's had it all cut out and he's on chemo.
A bit of ego now, isn't he, really? I mean,
but I genuinely have loved it. I've loved working with you, Paul. I've loved like learning from you, Wayne. And you have made like the podcast so professional. And the fact that we've got people reaching out to us and asking to come on the podcast. You know, we're not a huge platform. We haven't got thousands of followers yet. But we've got people enjoy listening, and we've got that, like a small, I don't want to say fan base, but a small cohort of people that listen and they like it. And we've had businesses come out to us and say, "Can I come on?" And I have people texting me, and also some had nothing to do with the military, never served in the military, and they're like, "I really enjoyed that episode of the podcast." And I think that's the kind of thing you think, yeah, this was a good idea, man.
Yeah, it's a nice talking point when you meet people and they say talk about business, or we talk about podcasts, or we talk about lessons learned, or what veterans can bring. And I always, I produced this podcast called CAPB Podcast, celebrating veterans that have gone into business or inspirational veterans, and the lessons you can learn from it are excellent. I think, it's been class. I've really enjoyed it.
What I've taken out of the last 6 months is I kind of miss it. I kind of miss the banter. I miss that element of chatting to. Now, through the podcast and through work, right, I've become really good mates with a lad that listens to this, and he works with me, and he knows who I won't mention his name, but he's an avid supporter of the podcast, and every LinkedIn profile or any military supported event he goes to, he's always dropping it to the CEO. You need to listen to this. You need to watch this. And we both had the conversation not so long ago in work about it's refreshing to tap back into that life in how we talk to each other, normal. And I kind of miss it a little bit because I can't really be that way in a corporate environment because I'd have my P45 in the post. So, I found it refreshing. I found it that I have missed the banter. Would I go back tomorrow? 1,000% yes. I would. If they said you can deploy tomorrow, I'm like, right, I've got my kit, no worries. I think that's just ingrained in us. But yeah, that's what I would take over the last 6 months. I've loved it. It's been great. I never thought it would get to this, if I'm honest, from that first car crash of me and Matt tried it, right? And then when Wayne came on board, it just kind of, everything just kind of started to slot into place. The guests we were getting on were they weren't handpicked or selected. It was they'd come to us, we'd look, yeah, come on. And it's all seemed to be flowing through. And I think it's that brotherhood, sisterhood, the commonality in everything, in all our experiences. We've all been through phase one, right? That's a standard commonality. It kind of binds us. So when we start talking to our guests, it's very relaxed. I've never felt that we need to watch what we say. I've never felt that there's certain topics off certain things off topic sort of thing off the table. It's been that comfortable conversation like we're having now. Like it's and that's refreshing. It's nice. It's great, and I really can't wait to, because I think we're gathering momentum, and you know, the smallest stones travels the furthest in the sea. Another, yeah, take it, mate.
I think for me, mate, I absolutely concur. I didn't think we'd still be here. There are, and we'll talk about what we want next. We'll do that as a sort of a wash up for this. It's just little short insight, but I've enjoyed all of it. I don't miss being in the military, not a tiny bit, not even a tiny bit. But I love talking to veterans, mate. I love listening about people's careers. I love listening to their stories. I love, I love them talking about that level of resilience. And resilience is it's subjective, and people can talk about. Some people have come over problems. Some people see different things, but I think that part of speaking to the military community, the veteran community, because some people are starting businesses while they're still in the military, and I think just having that mindset I love it. I love watching veterans do well. And there are people who come on the podcast who are now, their businesses are flying. It has nothing to do with their appearance on the podcast. But it's nice that we spoke to them at that first part. But what I love as well, and I will give you a shout out again, Wayne, is we started making this up as we go along, trying to make a podcast. Paul and I using our phones, and one night, 2.5 hours, mate, we couldn't record 7 minutes worth of content. We couldn't talk. It kept cutting out. And then when we spoke to you and we started using Riverside, and we had you on as a guest because you are the founder of an incredible company called Millscrum, which does amazing things. The episode was really poor. Nothing to do with your story, but it was poor because we didn't really know how to ask questions. We didn't really know how to pull it together. We didn't have microphones. And it was those little things like, if we're going to do this and people are going to give up their time to come on, we need to be better. So then we came up with more scripted questions. We started, getting together, having conversations before. We invested in microphones. You were like, I love that, guys, but you need help. And you coming on board, helping with the front and back end and the editing is the reason we've still got a podcast. So massive thanks, Wayne. For me, and I guess as a way of kind of looking at closing this off, what is next? What do we want next? What do you want to, in the next 12 months, whatever? We didn't think it'd go this far, but let's see where we'll go. But what do you want to see next on the podcast? Wayne, what do you want to see next on the podcast?
I think I don't think we need to change up a gear, get A-star celebrities that have left. We don't need to get the Ant Middletons and Nims Persias and stuff, because their story is very well known and captured. Mark Unruh, I thought, is again very well known and captured, but even he said it himself, it was nice just to shoot the shit and be himself and not just talk about getting blown up and stuff. A bit more personable about him. And maybe it would be cool to get those type of big celebrities and maybe talk about their story a bit more, instead of just the known story about those people. but that's maybe in the future. And I think, I don't know, it'd be cool to do something in like an event of some sort. That might be coming up. That'd be cool. But I think just continuing improve in making sure that it's seamless in quality, the quality maintains or improves, and we do the people, our guests, justice. It doesn't need to be recorded in a studio. We've proved that. I'm in my kitchen tonight, pausing Afghanistan in his fault, and you're in your lovely Wonder Hub in the back garden. Do you know what I mean? We don't need a studio to do this. It's the whole point of it is it's raw, authentic, but good quality content and visuals.
Love that, Wayne. What about you, Paul?
So so our main focus, right, is to highlight veterans and what they can give and do to businesses. I'd like to venture out a little bit further. Now, we've started introducing inspirational veterans. I'd like to try and reach out to charities, military charities, and find out what they can do for the veteran community and how, because, there's a lot of military charities out there, right? And you've got the big hitters, but a lot of veterans don't know these charities are there. They're there for them to support
what
them.
they do,
regardless of when you left. If you've left 6 months ago or whether they've left 20 years ago, you're still a veteran, right? You've still served your time. You've still put everything on the line for your country. These charities are out there to help veterans, and we don't know enough about them. And I'd love to get charities on the podcast to be able to spread that message, to say, hey, these are available. This is what they do. That's what I'd love to see in the next 12 months.
Mega. Well, yeah, I love that. I love the idea of speaking to some of the smaller charities, Rock to Recovery, some others like that, Reorg, some of the charities that people have mentioned who've come on the podcast. Because like you said, the bigger ones, like your Help for Heroes, the Soldiers Charity, things like that, they're huge, huge charities. And they get the budget to advertise, but some of these smaller ones don't. And I think that's definitely something we can look into. For me, I really want to speak to a coffee brand, someone a veteran who's gone into coffee, and there are so many out there, and there's that whole coffee bro community. And I think, but it's the whole process, of importing coffee, roasting coffee. Where did you learn to blend? How did you make it? Some of these coffee companies are exponential. Plus, I love coffee, so I'm hoping there's like a little thing we can do. And the second thing is like
Poo bags.
clothing. No, close. But like, is it some of the military clothing brands? And there are many, many out there, and we're working hard to try and, if we can, get one on the podcast. But that fascinates me. That whole production or that story of idea to production, with a physical thing like clothing. That's what I'm really excited about, that, because a lot of the businesses we've had are, I think, like Challenger Wild is a business, you know what I mean, where we'll go and do stuff, and I'll provide this. Heska's Healthcare will provide this, a pride in the service, and exploiting that kind of thing. But taking a brand from an idea to market and what stages and processes they went through is something I'm really excited about. So that's what I want. I would love a coffee brand, and I'd love a clothing brand, and then just more of the same.
Yeah.
More of the same. Like you say, Wayne, doing something live at an event would be mega. Maybe even doing a day in a studio, doing a day in an actual studio would be cool for an experience, I think, from our point of view.
Absolutely.
But what you've brought to the podcast and what you prove is we don't need it. This isn't funded. We get zero money from this. We're supported by Millscrum and by you through your time. And I think that's one of the things that I love too, that fact that we can do this, from Paul in deepest, darkest North Wales and us all the way down in Gloucestershire and the Cotswolds, being able to provide like a podcast and create a podcast. I think it's just ace. And I think if we can do, like you say, more of the same, that would be pretty cool.
I want to unearth the business owner of a random thing that has next to zero followings, and I want to get them up and lift them up and put them on that pedestal and go, this veteran is doing cool shit, right? It's not they've got 85,000 followers, right? It's the people that have got 50, 120 followers. That's why I'd like to lift them up and go. I'm not saying we're like the golden bullet here, right? But as our podcast is growing, so is our reach, and so is the community, and just to get them highlighted, I think is a core focus of what we do on the podcast, and I'd like to do more of that. So I agree with Wayne and I agree with you, Matt. Get these, and remember, if you're listening or watching, send us a DM, send us a message. Like, if you want to be on the podcast, 2025 calendar is open. So let us know. We'll book you in.
Yeah. There's two things I think that one from Mark Onwards' episode when he says about kind of that brotherhood of like getting the podcast to a position where we can monetize it and then use that to invest in this or in other platforms to support veterans into business, support veterans just getting out the mob and getting out the army or the RAF or the Navy and just supporting them out of it. The other thing I would be really interested in is like some international veterans that have gone into business. I know a couple that are definitely spring to mind, and it'd be really interesting to see if they have similar insights and crossovers from the UK military, the British military.
That's a shout.
I'd be interested in the core, like, so we have core values, don't we, right? I'd be interested in see what the similarity core values that they bring into their businesses from different nations. Yeah, that's a fucking shout, mate.
It's that lessons learned, innit? It's like lessons learned. And I think one of the things I'd like to start doing in the podcast, and we'll look at wrapping up soon, is to ask our guests, what's the one thing, if they could go back in time and give one bit of advice to them at day one of starting a business, knowing what you know now, what's that one bit of advice you'd give yourself? Because all of them have said they made mistakes. Everyone who's come on the podcast made mistakes. I'd love to have known this, did this. I wish I'd invested in advertising earlier. I needed to bring skill sets in, Look at Zip World. Like, the Zip World episode was one of my favorites. It's like, and he's got this amazing business now where he employs nearly 1,000 staff, bringing millions of pounds to a region which has previously really struggled for work. An absolute inspiration, Sean Taylor, as ex-War Marines. But like, what's the one bit of advice he would give himself? And I would love that. I would love to add that little element at the end and produce shorts, almost a series of shorts, even to a point where we go back to look at all the previous guests we've had on and say, what's that one bit of advice that we could share with the military veteran community that they could then implement, and maybe, we learn from our mistakes, don't we,
I think what we do need to do, if I'm honest, maybe a check-in on our, like an impact assessment of what the podcast has done.
That'd be cool.
What people think about it, the feedback, because we do get feedback, but they're predominantly from guests. But we get a lot more people watching the podcast or watching the shorts. It would be good to get to some sort of impact assessment. Like,
I think that's a really good shout. We could create some kind of form, some kind of feedback form, some kind of Inbal file, and send it out like a mentee survey or something, and some kind of survey monkey thing, and just send it on all the socials, leave it open for a couple of weeks and try and generate. Yeah, I think that's a really good shout. Feedback's a gift.
It is, yeah. Because it'll only help us drive in the right direction, right?
Yeah. On that, men, it has been an honour and a pleasure. What a big deal year for, first of all, let's, bants aside, for Paul, you being diagnosed and having your surgery and overcoming cancer, us creating a podcast, Wayne, you're about to become a dad for the third time. Do you know what I mean? Anyone can have two kids, mate. Do you know what I mean? But it's
two kids, yeah.
So the next time we record a podcast, Wayne, you will have a son, Simba.
Not Simba. Yeah. Look at the time. Look at the date.
Yeah, Jesus, baby Jesus Smallman.
So you'll be bringing your baby. You'll be bringing a baby to every racing event that we're doing, so we can turn the water into wine. Don't need to do the race. We just get smashed on red wine.
Mate, I love it. Listen, man, I appreciate you. Long may the podcast continue.
Merry Christmas and Nadolig Llawen.
Chocolate cheesecake to eat. What was
love
that,
it,
sorry?
man. So no, he hasn't got something stuck in his throat. That was Welsh.
Oh wow.
Oh, get it.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, guys. Bye.
Not
Merry
really.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas.